Welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I'm your host, Marcus Blake, and joined with me is from the Electric Jellyfish podcast, Mr. Chad Womack.
How's it going, guys?
And we've got Mr. Jimmy Alford.
What's up? How y'all doing?
So Brendan is not joining us tonight. He is, at the time of recording this, he has a networking event for his job. So I guarantee you he's the one truly missing out because he's not getting to talk about nerd stuff at work. But that's all right. We're going to rock and roll. This is our first official podcast of the of 2025. So we're going to kick the year off right, and we're going to talk about the best sci-fi shows that are on streaming services right now. Mostly Silo Season 2, which just ended last week. So we can finally talk about the first two seasons. And of course, it was announced that they are going to wrap up the entire series with season 3 and 4. So they're going to cover all three books. But there's a lot, but it's the beginning of the year. And if you're trying to find something to catch up on, new stuff really hasn't come out yet. We're going to give you some recommendations. And I get it. I mean, some of the big shows that you're waiting for, for the next couple of weeks. We got the final 5 episodes of Cobra Kai. It's coming out in 2 weeks in February. Reacher season 3 is about a month away. We don't have a date yet for Stranger Things, the final season. They did just, announce with the first trailer Alien Earth. So, there's a lot of things you got to wait for. But we're going to give you some good recommendations to fill up the time. But before we get started, I'm going to start with this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, and then I'm going to kick into a quick Star Wars review. This week's Sign of the Apocalypse is apparently for the new Star Wars New Jedi Order movie with Daisy Ridley. They are now on their 4th writer trying to crack this story. And this is the part of the show where we start taking bets if there's actually going to be a movie.
Is this going to be like the same one that they supposedly are going to get Ryan Gosling in? Because apparently he's been tapped for some sort of Star Wars vehicle.
No, that's a whole different. Thing. I don't know. I can't. I don't know who's actually doing those sets of movies. It's like a whole nother story unto its own. I think it might have been the James Mangold thing where it's like the early Jedi, but I think the Russo brothers still have something in development about Star Wars, and who knows? Rian Johnson still has his trilogy that's in development if that'll ever get made. We're at the point in Star Wars where you have more announcements about shit than you actually have content. So at this point, who knows? Now, personally, Ryan Gosling being in Star Wars, cool. I would watch it.
All right with that.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on which Ryan Gosling we get. Like if we get nice guy, Ryan Gosling for that's fine. Or if we get Terminator Ryan Gosling, that's okay as well. But personally, I would rather have like a more Han Solo-esque type character, but someone with a little bit more personality.
If you have like the Fall Guy version of Ryan Gosling in a Star Wars movie, I think that can be fun. If you get
La La Land Notebook Ryan Gosling out.
Yeah, I don't need Ryan Gosling, made out of wood in Star Wars. I don't need that. You
don't
as a Star
Ryan
Wars
Gosling,
fan,
no dialogue. I just drive fast.
As a Star Wars fan, I have to say we are a little spoiled. I mean, how long was it between 1985 and we had like 15 years between movies.
True. That is
we
true.
didn't have no Star Wars
years.
movies.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not as bad as, I guess, Star Trek. Well, maybe, I guess, I don't know. But,
Well,
there's
no,
still plenty of
actually,
stuff.
when did Star Trek go off the air? No, you only really had a 10-year period between live action. Let's see, 66, well, maybe 11 years because the Star Trek movie came out in 79, the motion picture.
Yep.
So you didn't have
Yes.
that long. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about between Star Trek and Star Wars, yeah, there was a longer period between Star Wars movies. So, but at this point, it's just like you can't get excited about any announcement. It's like, okay, whatever. It's like a social media post about something. Like, is this true? Can I really get excited? Has it been confirmed by five things? Or is this just the rumor mill of, you know, somebody as cool is going to be in a Star Wars project? I don't know. Until I see a trailer, I don't know it's real.
Honestly, I think this is a product of filmmakers working on three movies, an entire trilogy at one time, instead of one good movie and then
Look,
see where it goes and then make another good
look,
movie.
directors. There's a lot of good ones out there.
I'm
Okay.
not saying there aren't.
No. Hear me out. You are not Steven Spielberg. You can't pull off Schindler's List and Jurassic Park at the same time.
I got news for you though. Steven Spielberg ain't even Steven Spielberg anymore. As sad as that.
Although, good
Come on,
idea for a sci-fi movie, Schindler's List with dinosaurs
Oh god.
could be a new genre. I'm just saying.
The dinosaurs come back through time to gobble up the Nazis and rescue the Jews. I'd watch that.
Well, or you could go the darker route. The Nazis use dinosaurs, and then it's like really tragic, and it's like, but we love dinosaurs. You're ruining it.
I can see it now. Inglorious Raptors. There's your
There you go. And then dinosaur extinction, you're actually rooting for.
You know, the Bear Jew didn't really die, so I'm like, now I want a sequel and roll it out on a dinosaur. Oh my God!
It's got legs. It's bipedal, but it's got legs.
See, we make fun of it, but there's somebody who's going to listen. Like, I have an idea, and I've got to get my next thing in for a development deal.
If the people who did Sharknado could get behind it, I'd watch it.
What was that? What was that really schlocky kung fu send up they did a couple years back? Oh God, what the hell was that thing called? I'm gonna look it up.
I have no idea. I will say this about Spielberg, though, in response to your comment. Yes and no. I really loved Ready Player One. I thought that was a good film. Is it as good as the book? I get it. It's not. But as a film, it was fun. We had a great time seeing it. Do you need to remake West Side Story as a shot-for-shot remake? No. Okay.
Kung Fury. That's the movie I'm trying to think of. Kung Fury.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, like he's had a lot more misses than hits in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, Ready Player One is the exception, but the BFG,
I didn't care. But Bridge of Spies was really good.
But Ready Player One was after Bridge of Spies. I'm saying post Ready Player One, he's like the Fablemans. The Fablemans was
that was Universal giving him money to tell his life story. Yeah, and I'm going to say something. While Judd Hirsch is really good in that movie as his uncle, that movie is defined by one shot at the very end where the kid gets to meet John Ford, played by David Lynch. And by the way, we do have to say on this show, rest in peace, David Lynch. Wow. That's just that.
Honestly, have y'all seen 525-77?
Yeah. Great movie. Love that.
I prefer that over the Fablemans, to be
quite
honest.
No. I did that. I had a great conversation with the director of 525-77 through Twitter, talking about two coming of age movies that came out in the same year. This one's way better.
It is.
Fablemans. So.
Well, okay. I hate to be an ageist, but the longer we let some of the directors that seem to be like, the golden era children of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the more bad movies we're getting. I mean, Megalopolis. I'm sorry. What can we? The elephant in the room that shit on the floor.
You had a very talented cast. I get what you're going for, but man, that was a slog of a movie.
So I'm just, like I said, I don't want to be an ageist.
No,
at some point it's okay.
We have to call them out that maybe sometimes it is time for you to retire as a director.
The artist.
It's time for you to retire.
All
I
those
think,
architects of American Zoetrope are just they're not on their game
how
anymore.
about The Irishman? Like, I'm sorry,
Uh,
some people are okay with it. I hated that entire thing.
no,
It was so
there's
slow.
literally no reason to keep watching that movie. That I mean, you can take an hour out of that movie to
And still
make
bore
it
yourself to shit.
better.
Well, and on top of that, all the actors he chose are like 80,
Yeah,
literally 80,
yeah.
and then they aged them down. So all the action scenes, you're watching 80-year-old men do action, and you can tell they're 80.
Mhm.
Like, because they move like 80-year-old men, which is
Look, we know
fine
we
if
know
you're
you
going
want to
to lean
make
into
movies
it.
with your pals, but come on.
Come on, yeah.
Yeah.
And and the uncanny valley was always present there. I mean, like to me, about the most heartbreaking scene in that whole movie is whenever Pesci has to wet down his freaking bread with wine so we can chew it. I'm like, God, this is painful to watch.
Yeah. Also, I don't need a 3.5 hour movie about how white men stole oil rights from Native Americans and screwed them over.
I
Uh,
went,
that movie could have been told in 90 minutes.
Mhm.
Actually, a documentary would have been better.
If I say it probably has been with a documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. Who knows what the hell's going on in the Star Wars universe at this point in time? I do know one thing. Speaking of sci-fi shows that we are really looking forward to, Andor season 2, which will be in
Absolutely.
a couple of months, and I know that's going to be good. All right, quick review.
Well, we hope it's going to be
No, no,
good.
no. It's
We're
going,
optimistic.
Chad. It's going to be good. If as slow paced as the first one was leading up to who he's going to become, okay, you got to kick this one in a high gear. That's going to lead you right up to Rogue One. I know it's going to be good.
Oh.
Okay.
But I also look at the little guy on your shirt and see what they did with him in season 3. So,
Oh,
you know.
Jesus Christ! Why is everybody complaining about season 3? Is it absolutely terrible? No. Is it the
No,
Book of Boba Fett? No.
no.
But at the same time, it's a glorified long story about reclaiming Mandalore. That's all it is. It didn't need to be episodic. You could have made a 2 hour movie out of it. I get that argument.
That's my point. That's entirely my point.
And that's the point of my official review of The Skeleton Crew. Thank you, Disney, for giving us 8 shitty episodes that could have been cut down to a 2 hour movie that would have been somewhat enjoyable.
Mhm.
I am not going to take away from making a kid's story within the Star Wars universe. Fine.
Because that's what it all started out to be anyway.
Yeah, it's Goonies and Pirates and whatever. Awesome. It's on the same level as the Ewok made-for-TV movies that, you can watch on Disney Plus.
No, hold on.
I noticed we said,
Hold on. I'm sorry. No. I grew up with those movies, and I should know best. The quality is way different with, like, come on.
Okay.
Come on. Like, we may remember them fondly, but you cannot even put them on the same, like,
Are they
planet.
holiday special, though?
Damn
I
close.
remember.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just saying you can't say Skeleton Crew is as good. Like, what?
Okay.
I mean,
I'm
That's
not saying the Skeleton Crew I didn't say it was good. I'm saying that it's in the realm of those kind of movies where it is subpar to other Star Wars stories. You took an interesting concept that could have been fun and you dragged it out over 8 episodes to make it boring.
Mhm.
And after all the back and forth and stuff like that, I literally lost interest in Jude Law's character. Okay. And by the time you reveal that he was a Padawan that survived Order 66 and kind of became cynical, like, duh, we figured that out in 2 episodes.
And didn't we do this already in Obi-Wan with, I mean, come on, Jesus.
Yeah, stop. We know that some of them, turn to a life of crime to survive and blah, blah, blah. And some of them will come up with a stupid plot. I'm going to infiltrate Vader's inner circle like he can never figure out shit in the Force to get him back for killing children. And then when I don't win, I'm going to go kill his children.
Yeah, because that made a lot of sense.
well, okay. So I will say this as far as like the Skeleton Crew goes. I think the same argument you're making that it could have been like a 2 hour movie. That's the same thing that we've been saying. Like when we did the big review over the Acolyte and how bad it was, and we had to literally say we're not being racist on the show. It's the exact same argument.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we all made during that show Disney and everyone involved keeps doing the exact opposite of what they should. The shows that are being made should be movies. The movies that are being made should be shows. Whoever is choosing the scripts are really screwing up.
Well,
Like,
and that's the okay. See here, as we talk, as we are years removed from the Rise of Skywalker, and they keep talking about this 4-hour cut of the Rise of Skywalker. I actually want to see it because I know that it will probably make that story better. And as much as you crammed into that movie to tell that story, that could have been a Disney Plus series that probably would have been awesome. So I do not disagree with you. You're absolutely right. You need to flip-flop these properties and put some of them cut them down, put them in the theater versus tell a bigger story and put it on Disney Plus. It's
but
okay.
again, I think it goes back to what we said earlier. It's directors and producers who are trying to make 3 movies at one time instead of just one good movie, or they're trying to make an entire series when they should just make one. They're trying to do way more than what they need to do, and they're losing the forest for the trees.
See, I think it's cool that you're going to kind of end The Mandalorian with a movie in the theaters because there really isn't much to do beyond what you've already done, with these 3 seasons. So wrap it all up with a great movie that ties into other things. And it's an experience of going back to the movies with characters that we actually like. Even if it's an okay movie, no matter if it's subpar, we like these characters. We'll probably enjoy it. Okay. I mean, is it going to be as awesome as the 4 minutes of the last of season 2? Probably not. And it doesn't matter. But I'm almost like at this point with the Daisy Ridley New Jedi Order thing, just make that a series on Disney Plus. I don't know if I even necessarily need a movie for what they're trying to do with that story. James Mangold, you want to tell stories of the early Jedi? Great. Why shouldn't that be a series on Disney Plus?
The main thing that always bothers me is that you've got we all know who the gatekeepers of Star Wars needs to be. Can we all agree?
Yeah.
The 2 Fs.
Yeah.
So they succeed, I think, largely they succeed because they don't try to be smarter than the audience they're catering to. Because they are on the same level with that audience.
Right.
They don't try to shove an agenda down anybody's throat. They don't want to put their imprint on the story. This is the way I want to tell the story. Nobody gives a shit about what you want to say personally through Star Wars. Is it just me?
No,
I don't care. I don't care about your agenda. I don't care about your politics.
You're playing in someone else's sandbox, a property they created. Tell those stories built based on the lore that has already been established.
What has been our credo, Marcus, from day one? Respect the source material.
Yeah. So
stop trying to be clever. Just
I keep hearing more and more stories about the Alkalite and their overall plans with it, and I get where Manny Jacinto is coming from when he goes to conventions and they talk about it, and he was the bright spot of that series. He really did make a great villain, and it was kind of not the mask that looked like you came from a German sex dungeon, but
like Voldo from Soul Calibur,
right? Or you're the Gimp from Pulp Fiction.
Bring out the Gimp.
Yeah, but he was good in it.
Well, Manny Jacinto is good and he's just a good actor. I don't think you can draw a parallel there. It's like if you had put Manny Jacinto in like some high school, production of something or other, he would rock it, right?
Yeah.
Because he's just good. He's
right.
just good.
It's not hard to soar with eagles when you're surrounded by turkeys.
Right. And I'll admit that I kind of want to see how his story is developed personally, but it also has to be the backdrop of all this other stupid storytelling that goes against the lore and the source material and the fucking bullshit agendas that they're trying to throw in there. So I get where he's coming from, that he feels robbed. You
Maybe
got
so.
robbed.
Maybe so.
Yeah. But unfortunately, this is the sandbox that you were put in, and it didn't work out or whatever. Um, that isn't to say that you couldn't play some early descendant or whatever, like, in Mangold's world of the ancient Jedi. And I would love to see him come back as a Sith. Even if you tied that into somehow he was related to this character or whatever, awesome. Give him another shot. But do
Well, he could
it.
even do. I mean, he could even do the Robert Downey Jr. thing and just play a different character in the same universe, the same in the almost the exact same timeline. Why not? You know,
I
I'm
don't
looking
know
forward to
how that's
that.
going to work out, but I'm like, sure, let's go with it at this point. Isn't it sad? I don't know if you guys are like me, where you're just not that excited about any Marvel movie anymore. It's
No.
like I feel like, well, I have to watch it because of what we do. Like, I could
I'm more
literally.
excited. I'm more excited for the popcorn bucket, Marcus. I'm actually more excited for the Captain America Shield popcorn bucket than I am to watch that movie. And
Yeah,
that's
the movie's coming out in 2 weeks, and while they haven't announced our press screening or promo screening or whatever yet, I'm also kind of like, I don't really care if we did one. I mean, I guess I'll sneak in like Thursday night before it comes out and just say that I went to go see it and whatever. But I also don't care about Sam being the new Captain America. I'm just like, I can't. Doesn't do anything for me.
Well, okay. It's just one of the issues that I have is like he's just not, in my opinion, he's not the most dynamic actor out there. He just
Yeah,
isn't. Don Cheadle is. I mean, I would go with Don Cheadle. He's so much better
right.
of an actor than that other guy. And then it just then you got Samuel L. Jackson, great actor. I'm just not. This guy just doesn't do anything for me. He just
Um,
doesn't.
It doesn't move the needle at all.
I'm
And then
more. I
it's
am
going
more
it's going
excited
to
about Thunderbolts than I am about this movie. Thunderbolts looks fun. I mean, is it going to be good? I don't know, but it looks fun, and I think they kind of need to get back to that. So,
But
I
sadly, I'm no more interested in seeing Thunderbolts as I was the Eternals because I still haven't watched the Eternals because I don't
I
care.
watched it, unfortunately. Don't.
no, that there was literally no reason to watch that movie. I think the only Marvel thing that I'm even remotely excited about is Daredevil.
Yeah,
That looks good.
yeah,
That looks
I,
good.
I totally agree with you there. That's the
So,
only thing. I can't think of anything on the release slate for 2025 that's Marvel related that I give two honest shits about outside of Daredevil.
right.
I really can't. I'm
All
struggling.
right. We're going to move right along, and we're going to talk about some of the best shows that you can check out, that are sci-fi related. Right now, they're pretty much all on Apple Plus. Apple Plus is the go-to for sci-fi. We talked about this last year, so we're going to keep talking about that. There are shows that you need to go and check out, and we're not going to get into Severance. I know Severance is weird and fun and all that, but since we haven't really all finished it, um, not really there yet. So, uh, but two of the most dynamic shows, and then we're going to get to the big one that we wanted to review. Monarch Legacy turned out to be a really fun show. If you love Godzilla and that whole universe, and a show that actually connected the movies, despite they were hit or miss, and the fact that Wyatt and Kurt Russell got to play the same character at different ages, they really did. I thought they did a tremendous job with that series. It was fun. Now I know, Chad, you didn't really get into it.
And I wanted to because I love the Godzilla franchise,
Yeah,
but it was a slog for me.
yeah. No, I totally get that. Jimmy,
Wasn't enough kaiju action going.
I didn't watch Monarch because and the reason I didn't watch Monarch is because unfortunately the whole genre doesn't do anything for me.
okay.
Like,
Well,
I just
well,
like
Fair enough. Fair enough.
if you are a fan of Godzilla and the monster and Kong and all of those things, the agency that tracks it, a show about the agency, and the lineage, that's what made that show great. They are getting a season 2. Um, I love the interviews with Kurt Russell and Y that they had always been looking for a project that they could kind of do together. Um, Again, playing the same characters. It's a great, to me, it's what when Netflix had all the properties of, Daredevil and Jessica Jones and all that, that was great filler in between the Marvel movies or in Agents of Shield. That's what this show is. And it makes me more excited for some of the movies. Now, the last Kong Godzilla movie, I didn't really care much for that, but Godzilla minus one was amazing.
Oh dear Lord.
Great movie.
Good Lord, that movie was spectacular.
And, three-fourths less of the budget. So it is definitely one of those that I would highly recommend. Season 5 of For All Mankind will be coming out this year. I think they just wrapped production. Um,
So I have watched almost all of that show.
yeah,
And if you are a fan of movie or shows that are less the non-linear, if you're more into the linear storytelling, this is definitely the series for you because it is, like one day, next day, next day, next day type of show.
yeah,
It all builds on itself. I, I don't dislike it. I really liked it up until the latter seasons when they got to like the more futuristic, like space station type stuff. That I mean, I kind of like, it kind of got meh for me at that point. But everything like 60s and 80s and before, that's like the era that like I grew up like watching like on
yeah,
TV and in
yeah.
movies, and that really did it for me. I love it.
No, I
It's
agree
great.
that the first two seasons are definitely better. Um, them getting to when they get to Mars and all that, and you have the private companies that are pushing innovation and stuff, and then you're dealing with the Mars colony. It's great, but I also love the way that they ended like season 2, where, here we are in the world where you're having a Cold War coup at a space station on the moon, and the two most kind of famous astronauts who used to be married, have to make that daring raid to go and save them and run across and zero oxygen. And but I have loved where they have gone with it. Um, I don't think it has much life yet, or anymore. But those first two seasons in the alternate universe, and where you were, and especially when they introduced, female astronauts, great. It is definitely one of the best shows. But I also love the idea of, when you have to deal with the character of Margot, and she is, now considered a traitor and working with the Russians, but she's still trying to bridge the gap. And again, you kind of see the evolution of these characters. I am not a huge Joel Kinnaman fan. I never really have been. I think he's been miscast in certain things, but I've loved him in this series. So I definitely recommend it on Apple Plus. The other one we're going to get to real quick is, and we talked a little bit about it last year, is Dark Matter. Now, Jimmy, you were all over about this.
Oh, yes. I've been wanting to talk about that
This
for like
one is
months.
your show from Apple Plus. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, look, one of the reasons I really, really, really dig this show is that the entire science fiction plot happens within a reality that we can understand. One,
Sure. Yeah.
okay, so it's approachable, but it doesn't it doesn't shy away from doing just crazy stuff that's truly entertaining and and broaching like these high sci-fi concepts. Like think about Interstellar. One of the reasons why we love, like so many people loved Interstellar too, is that it got the science right.
Right.
It did a lot of work. It did a lot of work, and I feel
Yeah.
like Dark Matter, while it may not be as science heavy because a lot, like a lot of it is very fiction. I do believe it comes at it from that point of view of a more science-based science fiction rather than a fiction, more of a fiction with some science in it.
Yeah.
And I, you know, and I just, and also the whole, if you haven't watched it or anything, this should not be a spoiler for anyone if you read a description, but it has to deal with a multiverse type theory. And if you enjoy a multiverse type theory at all, you're going to like it. So like Rick and Morty fans out there, definitely a show for you. Definitely a show for you.
Funny that you use that comparison. I see the multiverse. I feel like it's too easy and a cop out when you're dealing with Marvel movies nowadays. Although I didn't hate the last Doctor Strange movie at all, but you know, again, it gets a little convoluted and weird and all that, and it's hard enough trying to explain. You know the whole plot of Endgame of having to end up an exact point in time to get the stones and save the day. This delves into so many, the different realities and the choices that we make, which I love the idea of the diversion of here are the choices. Here's what you can become. Here's the thing. Here's all of our lives, but all coming back to like a certain point. It all ends up back. We use the term full circle, and that's kind of where it does in this. But you're also dealing with themes of a scientist in the Frankenstein mythology. When your creation can go out of whack and takes on a life of its own, so to speak, and it's not what you think. It moves beyond. It starts dealing with the ramifications of science,
which is one of the great things about this particular show that most shows, like you mentioned, Marvel and their whole multiverse thing, and they don't ever delve into the possible consequences of creating multiple timelines and multiple realities.
Yeah, I mean,
in an actual, could be a bad thing type situation.
By the way, I mean,
like those other realities just stop existing. Ooh.
Right. We don't get into that kind of stuff, but yet Back to the Future explains it so well.
Yeah.
Well, you end up when you wake up in a different timeline and you're in Biff Town.
Yeah.
God.
So
it's just,
no. So definitely, absolutely. If I had to pick like my favorite sci-fi show of the last like few years, it's that and Fallout. Like they're competing for like 1 and 2, and they're very different shows.
Well, and it's funny that you talk about Fallout too. I will say this about Dark Matter because I don't want to give away spoilers. I want people to experience it. For me, it took a little while. The first couple of episodes, it does take you a little bit to kind of get into. But I would say about the third, fourth episode, that's when it really takes off. Okay. My favorite thing about it, and again, it's about dealing with the ramifications of multiverses. When they figures out that there's multiple versions of him, and they're all trying to make a deal with one another to spend time with Jennifer Connelly's character. Like they're arguing who gets to have her.
Yeah.
Because they all love her. And it's just like, okay, now this is getting weird. These are the ramifications of creating different versions.
Having a conversation with yourself couldn't be weird enough already, right?
Right.
But I agree with you on the pacing of the series as a whole. The pacing in my mind is like a snowball. Starts off slow, but it picks up speed until the very end. And I really enjoy that kind of pacing, especially with series. And when we get to Silo, let's go be my nitpick.
Well, I'm not going to nitpick that too much, but I mean, we can literally talk about, absolute pacing. However, if you binge watch it all, that's the beauty of like when I watched it, I'm like, I can't watch this from week to week. It's one of those shows you have to wait until it's all out to where you can do more because that's kind of the worst thing that they really did at Apple Plus is we're going to drop one episode a week of this kind of a slow pace and build up. It's going to be good, but you're going to lose interest after like 6 days because you want that next episode. And we'll get to that in a moment, but that's our recommendation on Silo right now. Now that if you haven't gotten into it, the first 2 seasons are out. just binge watch all of it. It's a lot better when you do it that way. But again, getting back to Dark Matter, I think to tell the story right, you have to have that kind of slow pacing in the beginning to, to really answer those questions and to have the mystery box. No pun intended based with that show. But by the time you get to the end and the choices that they make, it's a huge payoff. I don't know if that show can go multiple seasons or whatever. I'm very glad that they're doing a season 2. And
And
that
I mentioned the fact that they've used up all the source material for the first season. So it's going to be anyone's guess what's going to happen for season 2 because they're literally writing it is completely brand new.
yeah.
And I just hope, unlike what we got with Dragons and Fire and Ice, what is the first show?
You talk about Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones. Unlike what we got with Game of Thrones when they ended up outwriting the source material, and then we got, meh, at best,
Yeah. We have to make up what we think is going to happen, and everybody's going to be upset because he can't finish. Yeah, I know.
I'm hoping they do a better job of it in
Right.
this instance. And I just if we start seeing, ice wraiths show up in Dark Matter, I will throw up my hands. I don't know what to do.
That is fair. That is fair. All right. Speaking of Fallout turned out to be one of the better shows of last year as well. A lot of great nods to the games if you have played Fallout games. And another great series where, again, Walter Goggins just proves he's an amazing actor.
One of the best.
Yeah. And very much looking forward to a new season. I think it's funny that we talk about that show, and we're going to talk about Silo here in a minute because, again, you're dealing with themes of people who are trying to rewrite or make a better society, basically by killing off people. I was laughing with a friend of mine that we talk about humanity. It's almost like when Dan Brown wrote his book Inferno and they wanted to wipe away like a third of humanity or make them sterile. It's a cautionary tale that this is bad, but the more we deal with humanity, but is it bad?
Was Thanos right? I mean,
yeah, I know. It's like, but no, man, Fallout.
Well, the nightmare scenario is in that situation is if Thanos is right and he snapped his fingers, and the ones that should have been snapped were the ones that stayed. I mean, that's the
wrong. Yeah.
So, but okay, so in Fallout, you got your main character. Her name is Purnell, Ella Purnell.
Yeah.
So she was also like the main character in Arcane, and
Yeah.
so another one of the best sci-fi series of last year, and she was in both of them, and they even competed for like some of the same awards and everything.
Yeah.
I think Walter Goggins is great, like can't deny it, but you have to admit, like she kind of rocked it all the last few years, like 100%.
I just kind of like the way that it ended. That if you've loved the game New Vegas, that it's looked like that's what we're kind of getting into with season 2, and they got the feel right for anybody that's played the games. I mean, just little things from the suits to the music itself is like from a game. I mean, everything about it's like you really took a lot. You respected the source material. Like these guys must have played the game. And yeah, loved it. I was again pleasantly surprised because so many times we've dealt with trying to do a series or a movie based off a video game and getting it completely wrong. And then, of course, in the same year, twice they nail it with a series. And we're going to actually end this podcast talking about The Last of Us Part 1, and then, of course, what to expect from Part 2. But the majority of what we wanted to talk about with this show is Silo season 2. Um, for those that are not familiar with this because you don't have Apple Plus or you didn't see much about it or um, anything like that, this is a show basically where people are trapped into a silo in a totalitarian society. They don't know their own history. And there's a great big mystery box where a girl who basically is an engineer starts to figure out that what society has been told is not necessarily true. And her love and the love of her life starts finding secrets about what the world used to be. And they literally start off in this series. We don't know who built the silos. We don't know why we're here. We just know that we have to do this. This is our directive. This was the pact and the rules that were set up for us. So we're going to follow everything blindly until you really start to figure out that no, it's about higher ups that are trying to keep and subjugate and control society through erasing their history. You know, pretty much like a totalitarian society really does. But the brilliance of it and to be kind of trapped in these confined spaces without going to the outside and everything, that's what just made this show great. And the belief system that these characters have that there is a better life outside of the silo, and then of course, all the lies get exposed and all that. It's hard not to kind of get into certain spoilers when we talk about season 2. So we're just warning everybody now, if you're listening to this podcast, here is your spoiler. Yes, the main character leaves the silo at the end of season 1, and she does not die like other people. And you'll have to watch season 1 for you to realize how she pulled it off, only to discover that there are other silos. Their silo is not the only one. And then, of course, you figure out in season 2 that there were actually 51 silos, and there have been rebellions, and then there are safeguard measures, and what this was built upon, which is kind of cool, because it's very Fallout related too, but with kind of a different theme. Again, I don't want to completely spoil it because there's so many great little surprises. But I honestly feel like this is my favorite thing of Rebecca Ferguson. She's done a lot of good things. She's been great in the Mission Impossible movies, but I love her as Juliette Nichols. I love the cast.
Oh, the cast is absolutely fantastic, and they have a lot of really, really great like little side characters all throughout the silo from the different floors. One of the things though about this season 2 is, I mean, there is a lot going on, and I do feel like some of the characters are lost a little bit in the mix.
Yeah.
But we do discover a lot of backstory behind some of them that we didn't know before. And I mean, I guess that's just part when you're trying to create this really big, universe around this story. I mean, that's going to happen.
Right.
But no, the actors and the actresses do a really fantastic job. And one of the actors that I was surprised to see in season 2 is Zahn, Jimmy,
Yeah.
and
Steve Zahn, yeah.
yeah, and of course, but every time I see him in something, I feel like it should be a comedy. I mean, just so I don't. I know he's a serious actor. I know he does good work, but at the same time, I can't help but think, when's the punchline? When is
Yeah.
he going to crack a joke?
No, he's always been better in comedies, but he's also, done very good dramas or whatever before. Well, what was it? Is it Joyride, the Paul Walker movie that he did?
I
Car going
don't
cross
remember.
country, they pick up a girl, and I mean, it's like 299, 2000. It's a horror movie. I think that's what it's called, is Joyride.
Oh,
He
I
was
don't remember.
he
Sorry.
was also in the Sahara movie with Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. Yeah, he was in Sahara, which was, like one of those interesting flops. But I guess one of the most serious movies, he's in War of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
He's in Rescue Dawn. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm looking it up now. Joyride came out in 2001.
that's right. Rescue
2001.
Dawn. He played one of the POWs.
He is one of the POWs, and he does a really good job in Rescue Dawn. Uh, it's, but like I said, I don't know why, but there's like a mental thing where I see his face and I'm like, this probably should be funny, and it's
Right.
not.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. So I remember watching season one of this show. And again, it's not hard to figure out that obviously society is being lied to. You know, you're murdering all these people, and I love the whole old school computer system in the show that but you keep finding these artifacts from society and they keep trying to hide everything. And you're wondering like why? You know, why is it so important to keep everything from society? You know, and then you start to kind of realize that maybe even the higher ups don't even know their own history. Or and
Yeah. I mean, and throughout season two, I mean, we get little snippets, little like facts here and there that like clue us in to like what the timeline actually is. I mean, like the silos are around what 350-ish years
yeah,
old. And I believe it points to like I mean, like it does point to like as around now or a little bit before now when the silos were built,
yeah,
which does even make the IT department and the old school technology even so much more interesting to me.
yeah. Well,
You know,
it's like it's more analog. So it's like because you get that you start to figure out in season two that yes, there's some kind of secret society that keeps the safeguard on everything that has the like an AI and everything. So it's like we have to keep the lesser technology to keep them more dumb and not to figure everything out. Because again, that's part of the story too. Is you're trying to figure out the clue from one of the few people that have actually gotten to whoever these people are that have the safeguards, so to speak, um, that have quelled rebellions and to keep people knowing what really happened. But I got to tell you, the end of season two, you know, it lives, you know, leaves you on a cliffhanger with two of the main characters, but then it dives into the very last scene, you know, the past, you know, what happened after an event that eventually leads up to the reason to why they built the silos.
so this is my that's
Getting back to Silo season one and two. So, Jimmy, you were talking about you have some serious gripes
okay.
about the pacing.
All right. First things first. I want to say I did enjoy the show, but um at a certain point when you have a series, I think if you do too much non-linear storytelling, you can ruin your show. Lost is my example. I know a lot of people love the show Lost. I hate that show. I hate it with a passion. Every single season of it was just a life force drain on me. With all of the flashbacks and like all of it, hated it. Silo does not go that far with it,
And what you're
but it
saying
does.
is, after 20 years of Lost premiering, you have no desire to go back and watch that show.
It still haunts my dreams. No, no. All right,
By
so
the way, but it's funny you bring up Lost. I'll say this: the mystery of the silos is a way better story than the mystery of the fucking hatch.
okay, thank you. That's fine. I don't. That's great, you know.
Yeah,
But again, that's one of the problems I have. You know, and they do it a lot with season two. Is I think that they have kind of they pull, you know, a 2 hour story and they stretch it over 10 episodes,
yeah,
and they spend way too much time. She spends way too much time away from her silo in
yeah,
another silo when she should be back there and having to do all these side quests and being hung up with Steve Zahn,
yeah,
which is, and I'm not saying it's not a good, like, not good stories. I'm just saying I would rather have had more full episodes of past stuff in the
yeah.
mix than the
Definitely.
episodes we got of her running around
The,
doing
the the
errands.
overall story of season two could have been told in 5 episodes. It's half the season. You stretched it out. And I think part of the reason they did that is it hadn't been renewed for season 3 or 4 yet. So it's like, well, we have to get our full story's worth of, like, the second book and the short story, because I think it's all based on the second book primarily. And then, the rest is a short story in the third book. I don't disagree. Okay. And this is why I said before in this podcast, you need to binge watch it, because if you're waiting week to week, it just kind of feels like some episodes are like a letdown. Now, it's great that you're starting to find out more and more secrets. The mystery box of the other silo, the failed rebellion, all of those things are great. But be more concise with your time. Okay. Cut that down and get back to what you're. So you spent a lot of time kind of building up in the first half of that season with all the mystery box of the other silo, and then you have like this lull in like episodes 6, 7, and 8, where it's just building and building to something, but you spend nearly 3 hours to get there, and then it doesn't get exciting again until you really get to the last 2 episodes with the rebellion, with the other silos, and then the mystery of the safeguard and all of those things.
Well, part of that too is another issue I do have. I do take issue with movies and TV shows where if any of the main characters would just have told the truth at any point, the story would have stopped. I feel like you've run into bad writing.
Right.
I mean, just if one person had just stopped and said, "Hey, everybody, this is some bullshit. This is what's happening." Everything would have stopped down. I know it would have ruined the show. I get it. But in my mind, like, it nags on me because I would have been like,
Well,
eh,
Tim Robbins plays a great villain. He
he
is
does.
very good. I love him. I love Comet. Yeah, everybody's fantastic, but it's like, dude, at some point, just tell the fucking truth that you don't even know everything, or that maybe society can be trustworthy. That's the different. When we argue in politics about transparency, okay, and then I know a lot of that's going on right now because, fuckface Trump is going to release all the files on the JFK and Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King and blah 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 blah. Okay, fine, whatever. All right, I think you're releasing stuff that's heavily redacted anyway, so it's not that big of a, and you're arguing about transparency. Okay, fine. That's the difference. It doesn't matter who's in charge. That's what government does. They don't want you to know everything. They don't trust society to know the truth, especially in a democratic society where, people can vote you out and you can lose power and blah, blah, blah. That's the whole point and the theme of this story is we have to control society. We have to control the information. And the best way to do that is through history.
Well, but and hey, and we can start arguing about like the politics within the show because part of it, like some of the things that get revealed, I'm just like, but to what end then are we keeping these secrets? Like some of
Right.
it seems a little contradictory, not contradictory as in like oh, like they're like they can't keep track of their own lies type thing. No, contradictory as in if that is the case, what you just like what the story's just shown us, then everything we wasted our time with
Well,
part of the story.
I think I haven't read the books, but are we leading to the big reveal is some nefarious plot on why they really built the silos? Is it about survival? Is it about something else? So that's why we can't let people know that the world was once green and lush and, that, and obviously all these silos, you've set it up that they're in Georgia. Okay. You've dropped so many clues, and that's what makes that final scene at the end of season 2
Maybe
great.
the secret is Georgia just sucks. I've been there.
And and all the Bulldog fans have now abandoned this show. What? And by the way, I know some Bulldog fans. So when Notre Dame, kicked their ass in the playoffs.
Go Gators. There you go. There
Yeah.
that way we've totally lost the Alabama fan base.
Oh my God. This is also why I love Shane Gillis too. I've gotten to watch a lot more of his comedy. I know he's a Notre Dame fan. I loved his little commercial about praying for a Notre Dame win and whatever. But he had the greatest comment too after they had lost the national championship that, yeah, well, at least our coach doesn't look like he's sharpied in his beard.
Damn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
but
yeah, but
to your
it just,
point though, like showing that like the silos are like in Georgia and all that kind of thing, like one of the issues I do have with the people in the silo, if it's been like 350 years and none of them know what trees really look like,
right.
when these people who have never seen this stuff before see pictures and they're like, oh, it's so gorgeous, so beautiful, I do take a little issue with that because like what's your frame of reference?
Yeah.
If you've never seen it before, then why would you just think they look weird?
Well, and that was the point of when they finally get to enter the vault in season 2 with Solo is
Yeah.
all these things. They didn't know what music was.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
But
I like,
like the VR headset of like what was it, Puerto Rico? Well, I can't remember
yeah,
what she was looking at. Like the VR headset is like so gorgeous, so beautiful. It's like if she's never seen things like this before,
right.
then like I get it means something to us as the audience, but wouldn't the story have been even a little bit more interesting if it had a completely different effect on them,
Right.
like from their point of view?
Um, no, I agree. It seems like you leave a lot of unanswered questions that you feel like people aren't going to answer if you keep revealing these mysteries or whatever. I'm not dissatisfied with what they have revealed up to this point. Okay, but I'm also not really shocked by it. If you boil the theme of this story down, it is we don't know about the society that's trying to still control everything in the silos and why they have the safeguard. What is your end game? What's the point? Is it simply just you are a secret society trying to control the rest of society from behind the scenes? This is your new world order? Because this is starting to get boring in the day and age that we live in. It's like, stop, we get it. I mean,
Well, I mean, and there's always the nagging question. It's like you want to control it, but to what end? Like,
yeah,
what does it do for you?
right.
Like if everything sucks and then no one has anything, including yourself, even if you're top dog, I'm sorry, King of Turd Mountain is still covered in shit.
Very true. Very true. Um,
I
again,
hope I'm just made that up and that could be like a new catchphrase. I want it on a t-shirt.
hey, I know a guy who makes t-shirts. I was actually wearing this today because I saw this graphic and I'm like, that's cool. When I was getting shirt supplies and whatnot. But my overall assessment is, I mean, this is a fantastic show. It's not perfect. I still kind of give it an 8 just for the simple fact of the slow pacing of season 2. I feel like season 1 was way better.
Agreed.
But nothing against season 2 either, because you get to learn so much more about what happened, what they're doing, and the people are like, well, fuck it, I'm giving up. At this point, it doesn't really matter. Bernard is like, I'm done. I can't control this anymore. Let you deal with whatever is out there. Okay. Um, I got to the end of the plot line, and it felt like a plot line from the X-Files, where when you learn about the whole alien conspiracy at the end of like season 6, that really what it was a secret group of people trying to secretly work with aliens to buy their own safety, um, and develop a vaccine and all this. And it's kind of like blah, like, oh, okay. So you're just doing whatever you can to screw everybody else over, but to save your own hides because you think you're going to get to live in safety somewhere. Okay, whatever.
Which, hey, and that's the same reason I don't like the Alien Covenant or Alien Prometheus movies. That's the same reason I don't like those two movies.
Right.
They take all the joy out of it.
Yeah. My hope for season 3 and season 4, though, is now that you've revealed all this, and despite the slow pacing of season 2, and again, for people who are going to watch it, you need to go watch it, but it's better to binge watch all of it in the course of a weekend. This is not a show that I feel like you should wait week to week. I mean, I was angry we only got half the screeners, and I had to end on like episode 6 and wait a whole nother month before I finally got to see everything. I was like, no. And then you're just like, oh, okay. But
Yeah, I'm well, and I'm one of those people who definitely waits until like an entire series is like done, and then like I have to binge watch it. I do,
I
but
I learned
I
that I
find
learned that after 2 seasons of 24. Just wait
yeah,
till I get the DVD.
but I do find myself if a show's pacing is not right, I find myself fast forwarding through the slow parts
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hurrying the story along. And so like the hour long episodes end up being about 45 minutes, 30 minutes.
Right.
It,
Well,
especially when they introduce storylines, and not this show, but some shows they introduce storylines where it's like if you cut out this whole love triangle thing, it wouldn't have changed anything
yeah.
and would have saved me 4 hours of my life.
All right. So that's what I want to ask. This is how I rate season 1. I gave it a 9. I give an 8 to season 2. Like I said, it's not as good, and just because of the pacing issues. How would you rate it, Jimmy?
Season one, I give that like a 9.5. I really, really enjoyed season one. Like it was really good. Like it, honestly, it's kind of exciting. I
Right.
really liked it. Season two, I mean, 8 is fine. I don't disagree with 8. I'd probably give it more of a 7 just because like I found myself hitting that fast forward button.
Yeah.
But that also just may be me just want it's like let's kick this rebellion off. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
Quit wasting my time.
there's a lot of unnecessary buildup as you're trying to tell all these stories and make it more emotional. It's like, look, the only thing we want to find out is she going to be able to get back? What did she learn from the other silo that's going to help save everything? The build up to the safeguard, and I rewatched the last 2 episodes today before we did this podcast, and I was like, they're exciting episodes. They're great, but it just takes too long to kind of get there. Um,
I feel like the final episode I liked, I did. I feel like a better final episode would have been like a full episode in the past.
yeah,
Before, like really like showing the drama and have you a cliffhanger of like it's about to pop off and everything's about to go down.
yeah,
And then that would have set up season 3. We would have been really excited for season 3 because we have an idea. It's like, oh, we're going to see some shit
right,
go
yeah.
down. I think that would have been a better final episode, personally. But hey,
No, well, that I hope we get more flashbacks, because you've teased that there was an event, and what the conspiracy kind of behind everything. So what's going to get us into the cycle? I mean, Fallout it's pretty easy to explain, their reasoning behind all of this, that they caused it themselves and they're going to go back and the earth will be good at some point and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, um, it's definitely, in my opinion, that and Dark Matter are like the two best sci-fi shows on Apple Plus. And if you
Mhm.
are a sci-fi fan, it's worth having a subscription and getting into. And for Chad, who didn't really contribute much to Silo because he hasn't watched it yet, but now he knows all the spoilers. Again, you know how to do it now. It's a show, as we have told you, just binge watch it. There's no reason to watch it from week to week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm gonna let you two take it away. Why are Creature Commandos? Why is that one of the best shows to watch right now?
It's fun and you get hot monsters. I mean, come on. It's honestly, look, D HBO Max Warner, like DC, they totally screwed up so much when it comes to all their superhero movies. Though their one saving grace is like their adult animated DC shows have been pretty darn on point.
Uh-huh. And the fact that this dovetails out of Peacemaker and is supposed to dovetail right into Superman. This show is like a connective tissue to both of those things.
Oh, not only that, but also the last Suicide Squad movie that had, that also kicked off Peacemaker. Like
Yeah.
it wraps all that together, but not in a clunky way.
Yeah,
It actually does it in a very like it
organic,
makes
felt
sense.
natural.
It's very organic.
Mhm.
And you still have like the same actors, the woman, what's her, I can't remember the name, the main actress who plays, she's like the villain, um the director. But anyway, this is the same actor who's also in the Suicide Squad movie, and
Oh,
she's
Gunn's
also,
wife, you mean?
I'm sorry, what?
Gunn's wife?
The
James Gunn's wife?
You talk about
uh
Viola Davis, who is like
her, Viola Davis. Yes. So, thank you. I couldn't think of her name.
Okay, yeah.
Viola Davis. She's the same actress. She did the Suicide Squad movie. She also did the other animated Suicide Squad shows. She's been the same character in throughout all
Yeah,
those
Amanda.
shows.
I forget the one.
Amanda Waller.
Yes.
Yes. And it's actually been in my kind of not refreshing necessarily, but it's been nice that the same actress with the same intensity has been doing such a good job in both the animated and the live action. I think that's really good.
Mm-hmm. There's
But
consistency there. There's carryover.
yeah, but to describe, this show, if you go, you have to go back. It comes out of the end of the last Suicide Squad, where
Right.
basically they say f you to Waller, and you're not going to use us inmates as your cannon fodder to get these secret missions done, blah blah blah. And so apparently there's been a law made that says, oh, we can't use super villain inmates like this anymore. So Amanda Waller says, you know what? Fine. These people are monsters. They aren't human. Let's use them because in the DC universe, there are plenty of monsters all
Yeah.
around, and that's some of the joy of the show. I mean, what do you think?
I adored it. I mean, and I wasn't really expecting to. I kind of came into it with expectations lowered because I kind of feel like Harley Quinn's kind of been slipping a little bit. It started off strong, but it's been kind of just slowly but surely declining. And I'm like, let's get let's get things back on track with Creature Commandos. And I I am personally I'm getting really sick and tired of all the James Gunn hate that Snyder can do no wrong, and he was so freaking, you know,
Well, if that was the way that we thought, you're talking to the wrong guy because, like, I really dislike this Snyder and almost
right.
everything he does.
Yeah.
So,
I like his DC universe, but I mean, it's also imperfect and
Yeah, it's not the be all end all. I mean,
no.
we don't need to put it on a wall framed in gold and say this is the standard. No, it's not. It was passable.
Hey, his Justice League cut is obviously the better version. It's also
Yeah,
4 hours long and like a mini series, and I mean, it works within that realm, and that's the beauty of DC is you can like different characters from different Earths or whatever. I like Robert Pattinson's Batman, but that's an incredibly dark noir version of Batman. That's not my favorite.
yeah.
Okay.
And we could sit here and talk Penguin all night long.
Yeah.
But as far as James Gunn goes, he's also one of the masterminds behind what some like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is one of the things that I love most about the Marvel
Right.
MCU was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Same. Yeah.
And yeah, and here in Creature Commandos, you've got, you got Pride of Frankenstein, you've got a creature of the Black Lagoon, you've got a radioactive man, you've got the Weasel, which was also in the original live action movie and in the Suicide Squad. Like he's technically like the only character like that spans
Right.
both as which is interesting, but in my mind, what does this show really, really good justice, like props to the seamless way they weave the backstories of these monsters, and they
Mhm.
do it in a way that makes you kind of care, and at the same time just kind of root for them, which is the
Yeah.
purpose of Suicide Squad and
Yeah.
Creature Commandos is that you're supposed to root for the bad guys. That's
Yeah.
like
Right.
that's like the deal.
Every episode gives each team member a moment to shine. And they spotlight a particular character. Now, granted, you focus on the entire ensemble, but every episode you get a little deeper backstory into a specific member of the team. I love the fact that you've got Sean Gunn, uh, you know, James Gunn's brother, is the voice. He was also the mocap actor for Weasel uh, in the live action Suicide Squad, and he does the voice of Weasel in this, even though it's mainly just shrieks and screams. But he's
Which
also
it's also interesting they gave that character in my opinion, the saddest
Oh my
backstory.
God! Like James Gunn was quoted saying when he came into I can never remember the name of the woman that he married, but she was the female lead basically in Peacemaker. He said, "I just wrote the saddest thing I've ever written in my life, and it was Weasel's episode." Uh, it was I don't want to spoil anything because I want Marcus to dive into this thing with with untainted eyes, but
Well, I'm going to
If a
start watching
half
it.
man, half weasel hybrid that slobbers on itself, licks its own crotch, can make you cry in a serious way, this is and in a cartoon, this is your opportunity. You
I
get
mean,
to
Well,
experience something new.
we are talking
okay.
about James Gunn here. We're talking about a guy that made us care about a tree and a raccoon. This
Yeah.
man can do anything.
Well, I'm going to say this about James Gunn, and then we're going to segue into the last thing we talk about tonight. But for everybody that's already starting in and nitpicking about the Superman movie and the CGI and blah, blah, and I'm like, first of all, you can still like the Snyderverse for what it is, and we can still enjoy James Gunn's DC reboot for what it's going to be, and it's clearly going to be more comic book oriented. You're talking about two different styles of filmmaking. You can like both. You can like one over the other. That's okay. I can't wait for Superman. I can't wait for what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If he's able to do all this with animated shows, Peacemaker, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and yeah, the third Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of hard to watch when we have to do the flashback torture scenes with animals. And I'm like, I literally fast forward through that shit anytime I've ever watched it again. Because that literally just makes me want to kill people. But um
You know what makes me want to do that? The if we get more slow motion Superman scenes. Sorry, I had to poke the bear with the.
Oh, wow. So I think what Jimmy is saying, thank God we've moved out of the Snyderverse. He's also saying that if we do get Rebel Moon Part 3 on Netflix, he will not be reviewing that. He is already
No, nope,
calling
nope.
that.
I want to. I want to hate watch it. I'm down.
Can't do it. Won't do it.
Wow. But
Refuse.
anyway, my point is, there's a lot to be excited for with what James Gunn is going to do. Okay. It's going to be very refreshing. And I think we have finally turned the corner where I think DC is going to actually start, finally be better than Marvel. Okay. So, but anyway, we're going to have lots to talk about when it comes to that. I appreciate talking about this show. No, I have not jumped into it. And now I actually want to start watching it tomorrow.
It's
It will
it's
take
well worth it. Well
Yeah.
worth it.
Every episode's like less than half an hour long, so you can burn through it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and if there's any chance for DC to upend Marvel's dominance, it'll be right now since they're trying to do a reboot of Fantastic Four, which I'm sorry, every time they do it, it's a flop. So this is going to be the chance.
I don't really care about Pedro Pascal being in the Fantastic Four. However, the last thing we're going to talk about that's sci-fi dystopian related, and we're not going to talk about it very long, is The Last of Us.
That's
Last
called a segue, by the way. A beautiful segue. Congratulations. Very well.
You like how I did that there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Props. Yeah, props.
Right here in the cockles. That's where I feel it. Right in the cockles.
If Brendan were on the show, and after you saying that there's an Irish song that him and I would probably be singing right about now, Molly Malone. But anyway, now I digress. The Last of Us Part 1, based off the first game, came out early 2023. Fantastic. We talked about it, how it's probably the best live action thing of any video game, and the way they did it, and the fact that they did it as a series, and that you've got dialogue straight from the game. They redid cutscenes, but changed a few things here and there. And for those that are never going to go back to play the game, you got the story. You got the actual story, the gut-wrenching emotional connection to these characters. And they did flashback scenes really well, explaining the science between cordyceps. Like I loved the flashback scene at the beginning of episode 2, because I actually went back and rewatched all of it again this past week, anxiously waiting for season 2. But the Indian doctor who discovers everything, where it originates, and her response when they're trying to get her to do a vaccine is, no, there's nothing you can do. Bomb the city. You have to kill everybody. And they're just like,
what?
So again, for those who have never played the game, this is a great way to jump into how gut-wrenching and emotional that story is. Now, Chad, I know you've not played the game. Have you tried to start the game after watching this series?
Oh, I dabbled with it before the show started. I just never finished it. I never got all the way through it.
Oh, okay. I got you. Jimmy, how about you? Have you played the first?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will say personally, I love the show. The game bothers me a little bit, but that's only because I dislike games that make me watch a movie in order to play the game, like with unskippable cutscenes. It drives me absolutely bonkers.
I don't know about the original PS3 version. I've only played the remastered PS4, and I have the PS5 version now, which I started again because I wanted to see how much they had changed with the gameplay and how gorgeous it looked. And it's absolutely gorgeous on the PS5.
Absolutely.
The gameplay is better.
But I will say this: the
but
people
you can
who made
skip
this,
some of these things. Yeah.
yeah, they absolutely did a fantastic job and cherry picked probably a game that has one of the best written stories behind the video game itself you could possibly ask for. Like you couldn't ask for better source material. I mean,
I was telling someone that my only complaint actually was yesterday when I was interviewing director Jonathan Bowen. We had a little time, we were talking about games, and we were talking about that series. If you've ever played the first game and you've watched the last episode is kind of a letdown because everything happened so fast. And if you're playing the game trying to get through the hospital to rescue Ellie, it's I mean, there's a lot. You're going to die a lot. You really have to learn how to be stealthy. You can't just shoot your way out of it. It's hard because, I mean, it's basically the hardest fight that you're going to have to do to rescue her. And in the show, it's like, oh, it's just 5 minutes of slow-mo action of him just shooting everybody. And like, oh, well, that's kind of a letdown. But then they absolutely recreated the exact scene from the game with Marlene. And that was cool. This is my favorite part about season one. I love the fact that they really fleshed out Bill and Frank's story as a great love story.
Mhm.
It this just made me love Nick Offerman even more.
Who knew?
Yeah,
I had no idea he had that much depth.
no, loved everything about it. The music, and by the way, you couldn't have picked a better old school country song than the Linda Ronstadt song. I'm going to love you for a long time when they finally leave. I mean, I was almost in tears because in the game it's like, oh well, here's some Hank Williams. It just they made it so much more emotional TV series. So, with that said, I've encouraged people to do two things. If you've never watched anything or you don't know the story, don't go watch cutscenes and spoil it for you, especially part two. Okay, because if you don't know it, you need to feel the effect of the death of one of the main characters. Chad, you know what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish I didn't, but yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil it for our audience, but that cutscene's emotional. I mean, it's just like fuck me, and I love the documentary of them making the game and Troy Baker talking about calling Neil Druckmann out. It's like you can't do this. It's going to piss people off. They're not going to want to buy the game, or they're going to be upset with you. But then you realize why it has to be done to set the rest of the story. Play the game. I the second time I went through The Last of Us Part One, I played a little bit after each episode and then finished it up. And it gave me a new perspective. I've done part two. I finally finished it, and I'm going to start it again when the new series starts. Even though it's going to take a while, they're going to split part two into 2 seasons, and they have to because of the different story. Well, they have to because
I know, I get it. It just Jesus.
no, I know, but there's so much more to Abby's story. And while you hate her in the game, there's a reason they make you play her story to get to the end. It was absolutely the right choice. When I played the game, I was like, well, fuck it, I'm dead. I don't even want to get, because Omri was complaining about it and, was getting really repetitive, and he quit. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to finish this game. I want to do it. I want to see what people are talking about. And I was like, okay, I get it. Absolutely. You have to play it. Now, Jimmy, have you finished part two?
I have not.
Okay. So that's my advice is, yes, you have to play her storyline. It's a great storyline. She's not an evil character. You understand all her reasoning, and it makes so much more sense by the time you get to the end. With these characters that are completely changed and so far into the darkness, of revenge, that it's like, how do you get back to their humanity, to what they used to be? And that's what makes me excited if they ever do a part three where you get to kind of play with both characters, because there's so many gray areas. But part two, is coming out here in a few months, and I cannot wait for it. So
It's going to be tough because I'm going to have to wait till it all comes out so I can binge it.
Well, we're not writing any reviews. We're not even doing a podcast about it until it's done. But I will say this again, gamers out there, if you've never finished part two and you like this story, you've got a few months, get into it, get through it, because I don't know how they're going to treat the major death scene. I don't know if it's going to be in the first episode. I know there's going to be a lot of flashback scenes that'll build the 5-year gap between the storylines and the games, because there's flashback scenes in the game, but I don't know how it's going to hit in that series compared to having to experience it in the game.
Look, honestly, if season two is half as good as season one was, I am, you know, and it's all the same people. I imagine they're going to do it justice. I
Yeah.
I can't. It'd be hard for me to think that they're going to screw this up. I mean, like at least not that badly. No,
No, that's true.
I say that, and you know,
We've been wrong
Well,
before.
I
I
mean,
mean, look at what happened to Game of Thrones. You know, and full circle. And if we get ice race in this show,
Shut up.
I will still defend Game of Thrones like it's, while it certainly should have been better, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it's not their fault. It's always going to be J.R.R. Martin's fault for not finishing his fucking books.
he has actually admitted at this point, like he's not going to live long enough at this point to actually do it. Like there's just it's not going to happen. So all the fans can calm down and
Yeah.
just stop sending him hate mail. It's just he's not going to do it. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. This is the ending to your story. If you don't like it, that's what fan fiction is about.
There you go.
And we can argue it till the cows come home about it. But the one thing I do wonder about, again, season two, like, so first of all, having played the game, Jimmy, having dabbled with it, Chad, do you really, is Pedro Pascal perfect casting for Joel? Or do you feel like anybody could have been better? I didn't like him kind of in the beginning personally, but the more that the first season went on, I was like, this really is, I mean, he really is Joel, just not as of a Texas accent.
He fits his personality, but his physicality is just off. You know, it's just it. But I mean, that's not a game breaker for me. That's not a deal breaker. I've grown into his portrayal of Joel.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have been my first choice based on his look. But he's
Yeah.
definitely got his mannerisms and his personality down.
Yeah. Well, Joel seems a lot bigger in the game.
Yeah,
The more
kind of does.
physicality.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what. I like Pascal. I like it. I like his acting. I like the stuff he does. I have no qualms. I do think, and I'll go back to Dark Matter, the main actor Joel Edgerton.
Yeah.
I think he could have done it. One, he does, in my opinion, kind of have a similar like broody style that could have
Sure.
worked. And he's also done boxing movies. Didn't he do that MMA
Warrior.
boxing movie?
Warrior.
Don't get. I will talk Warrior all night long with people. That I cry at the end of that movie every
Okay.
fucking time.
And
Love that.
and I'm just saying, I'm bringing him into it because he has the reps, he has the physicality.
Right.
I think he could have done it pretty darn well. And I do think that Pascal really he's the man of the hour, especially, you know, in 2020, 2021, 2022, because like he was Mandalorian and like he had a whole slew of things coming out. Like, and he still is kind of like the man of the hour. He still has a lot of stuff going on, but he's also really good. So he deserves it.
Yeah. Well, again, he does seem like, you know, bigger in the game, and I love Troy Baker's voice that he did. Pedro Pascal doesn't really sound Texan like Troy Baker, but Troy Baker is actually from Texas. So I mean, I
mean, they kind of went with the kind of Hispanic Texan, which
right.
is there's nothing wrong with that.
You know what? And I didn't even mean it that way.
No, I know you didn't. That's why I said. I mean, it is what it is.
But when they recreate the scene at the beginning of the series, you know, just like the beginning of the game where they're trying to escape and Sarah dies, that's also kind of what made me really see is like, wow, especially having gone back to do this a third time with the PS5 version, is like, wow. So yeah, I mean, really, really great casting choice with Pedro Pascal. I also love this story because he's very family oriented, and he tells the story of when it got announced. He had called his sister, and his nephews were in the car with his sister. Yeah, and was like, well, I just got this series on HBO. It's based off a video game. He didn't even say it, and there's never like, what? You're gonna be the last of us? It's like,
well, I got to do it now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's just as good as Henry Cavill's nephew always going to school and saying that his uncle is Superman, and the teacher getting upset and not realize, oh wait, your uncle plays Superman in a movie, and he had to show up as Superman.
Everybody's like,
Honestly, I would be more impressed if he just said his uncle was, Henry Cavill. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, I actually want to be your friend. Who wants to be Superman's friend? He's too good.
Right. Um,
No underage drinking with Superman.
right. So with season 2, disappointed that it's only going to be 7 episodes. I hope that they are, on the long side, like a full hour. So I kind of figure, I think the way it's probably going to do, just like the game, is I think that this next season is going to be most of Ellie's story, and then we're going to get into Abby's story that will connect everything to the end, by the time we get to season 3. But for anybody that hasn't played the game, you're going to be in for a hell of a ride. I still like the first game better, personally. But I do think The Last of Us Part 2 as a game is an absolute amazing story, and playing the dual story lines to where they connect at the end. So anyway, it's definitely been one of the best and most surprising adaptations of a game. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Oh, absolutely.
yes, because what did they do? Respected the sources.
Oh, and to your point about the episode count and the run times. Now, me personally, I am a fan of more episodes, not fewer. If they're good episodes, if there's 7 episodes, but they're really good, it's not going to bother me.
No.
Would I rather have 14 shorter episodes? Probably, but that just depends. That depends. If there's 7 really, really good long episodes.
Well,
I'm
we
okay
can't
with it.
get like Cobra Kai, where most seasons have been 10 to 13 episodes, where it feels like a 3-hour movie and you can binge watch it in an afternoon. But it also works really well. I like how they have done that, to where you really get your fill, even with some of the more soapier, dramatic things that are outside of karate. So, all right, everybody. Well, we've given you plenty of recommendations of things to check out before any major releases this year. And we've also given you a couple of games that we highly recommend that you should start playing. It's never too late to get into The Last of Us. Part 1, you can pretty much finish up in about 15, 20 hours, depending on how good you are. Part 2 is a little bit longer, but very much worth it. So, all right, everybody. We'll be back. Our next show after this is the Cobra Kai show. Once it is finally all ended, we got 5 episodes left. It's going to come to an end. We're going to talk about how awesome this show has been, and did the ending meet our expectations, and a little bit about how it's going to segue into the Karate Kid Legends movie, which I can't say I'm excited for personally, but
So I saw a poster for it.
Jackie Chan. So
It's Jackie Chan again, right?
yeah.
Kung Fu is not karate, right? They are two different disciplines. This is the problem I had with the first one you did.
I know. But somehow he knew Mr. Miyagi. They're going to connect these worlds, and I'm okay with that, because I like the actors, and it looks like it's going to be kind of fun. That's all.
Well, I think this breaks Chad's rule, though.
Hey, if you're kind of making it source material and there's a really cool connection, fine. I'll see what you're going to do with it. But if it's stupid, we're absolutely going to call you out for it. That's how we work here at That Nerd Show.
I'll take Jackie Chan. Just leave Jaden Smith as far away from this shit as you.
Is that his name? Did he change his name to something else? Is he
I don't
identifying as something else?
I don't know. Is the artist formerly known as Jaden or what? I don't.
He
And the
started,
only way
paint-
you
he
can
started
figure out-
painting his fingernails and doing
Right.
other stuff. Which, hey, do what you're going to do. I'm fine.
And the only
with
way you can even get away with that is literally if you are Prince, because you're that good.
Well, I guess he could be the artist formerly known as Fresh Prince's son, whatever the hell you.
Wow. Oh my gosh. By the way, to make the Oscars more entertaining this year, we should have round 2 of Chris Rock and Will Smith.
God.
We should make it like a Rocky franchise.
Ooh, better yet, let's do, since Mike Tyson just had a fight, let's re-release an NES Mike Tyson game, but let's have Chris Rock as being the final person you have to fight as Will Smith, in Punch Out. So it'd be
Wow.
Will Smith's Punch Out.
Wow. And then there's just a flashback to an evil look by Jada Pinkett Smith in the
That's
audience.
No, well, I would put her in like in the Frenchman spot. So as Will Smith, you have to actually fight her, like as like the third or fourth opponent.
And her boxing name is Alopecia Niqua.
Oh,
Okay, we were already going to hell, so
yeah.
am I the only one that after that joke actually wants to see her in G.I. Jane 2 now?
I don't want to see her in any damn thing, to be quite honest.
I know. All right, everybody, we're out of here. It's time to say goodbye.